Hey there, everybody. Tony Garcia, Michigan beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, joined by Sabin, our Big Ten insider. We came outside for this video on the third deck, the terrace at the Sheraton Grand, downtown Los Angeles, where all the Rose Bowl media activities, press conferences, and whatnot is happening today. Michigan's offense was up. That included coordinator Sharon Moore and, of course, quarterback J.J. McCarthy. And Reiner, I think that's where we need to start, because it goes without saying Michigan needs to play well to win this game. But J.J. McCarthy, specifically, you and I were saying, if you had to pick one, right, he's got to be the guy.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I think it comes down to, what he can do in the passing game. I mean, that's always been the kind of question. Can Michigan throw the ball against this kind of defense, an SEC-level defense? Do they have the kind of quarterback who can elevate that offense after we saw that Michigan in 2021 could not just use the formula they did during Big Ten play to try to beat Georgia? That formula did not work with Cade McNamara at quarterback. J.J. McCarthy was seen as the once-in-a-generation quarterback that was going to lift Michigan in these kind of situations, so he's going to really have to come ready to play.
Yeah, and we were talking with him today, and he talked about the TCU game, which he does not like to talk about, think about, right? He's big, that's in the past, and we're looking forward. But what he did say, which I found interesting, someone asked if that was like his lowest moment or his worst game. He's like, well, I mean, it wasn't my worst game. Like, I've played worse, but given the magnitude and the two throws, yes. I've never felt worse after a game, essentially. Was what he said, and there's no room for error this year like that. I mean, there was none last year, and it seems to be the case again. And it's a question. I mean, is it Roman Wilson on the outside? Is it Cornelius Johnson? I would guess no. We have thoughts that it might be some big fellas, some tight ends who might have to be where he looked early and often.
Yeah, I think it's going to probably come down to Colson Loveland and A.J. Barner, but mostly Loveland. And I think Nick Sabin has identified Colson Loveland as the guy he wants to take out. And talking to Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator, it seems like, he was mentioning the fact that Nick Sabin does a great job of leveraging the ball where he wants to go and taking out their best player. He's skilled enough. He said a fastball, curveball, changeup for these situations. So he's good at that, and having covered Nick, I mean, one of the things that he talks about is protecting the seams. That's one of his big emphasis of defense, and that's
where Colton Loveland does his work.
That's where he does his work, and so I think that is going to be a challenge for Colson Loveland. I think he's going to have to watch a lot of film, more so than maybe even most of the other guys, especially in running option routes, because he's going to have to read coverage and find out where the soft spots might be, if there are any. And so I think it's going to really come down to how much they want to use, or how capable they are of using the tight ends, but also how Michigan deploys the tight ends, because they have an issue with the tackle position and having to keep Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell at bay.
They're going to be in to chip frequently. Yeah. You might think, and how much does that disrupt the routes they need to run? No, it's a good point. And a quick aside, you mentioned how much film they can watch. I just got a message from Catapult after the software system that houses sort of the technology that tracks practice stats and things for a lot of these teams. They're confirming that there is an active investigation, right? And it is not just Alabama. Isaiah Bond told me yesterday that Alabama has not been watching film on their iPads because of Michigan's sign stealing. Is actually the team that's being investigated, according to Dan Wetzel of Yahoo, is not Michigan. Yeah. So there is some sort of breach. That's just for what it's worth. But to bring it back to J.J. McCarthy, he said that he is feeling 100%, and not just the 100% that you need to tell the media, but actually healthy. And that's he needs to be, because he's talking about using his legs, and teams that either beat Alabama and then he qualified, or come close to beating Alabama, right? The ones who even give them trouble are when they're using their legs. And in his last 5 games, 24 rushes for negative 22 yards. That's counting sack yardage. I mean, JJ is not a statue like that, which he has been limited to being in recent months. And
Well, I think that's also, again, the offensive line issues. I mean, they've had some struggles with the tackle position. I mean, Zinter being out does not help their cause.
I was going to say that's not changing.
And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how effective, JJ is going to be in this game. And going back to the TCU game, I mean, it was honestly his worst performance, because I found it actually pretty encouraging. It was like the first sign that Michigan really could, move the ball and commit to the passing game and be successful doing so. When the running game was, was really pretty much taken away in that game. I mean, their 3-3-5 stack that TCU ran really kind of limited Donovan Edwards after that first big carry of the game. And then, it was left to JJ really to kind of rally the team, and he almost did.
He did it with his legs, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, he ran and threw the ball more times. He was more involved in offensive plays individually than any other game that he's played before or since. And so it was probably the most encouraging in that sense.
That's exactly why he said, no, I don't feel like that was my worst game. He didn't feel like he played that badly in a lot of ways, but just critical errors that you can't have. And I want to go one more thing when you're thinking about this line and protecting JJ, and especially the tackles. We were talking with Trevor Keegan briefly. This was actually at Laurie's yesterday during the Beef Bowl. We're having a legitimate conversation. He's wearing a medal and a chef suit. It's only college football do you get those kind of conversations. But anyways, and he was talking about he's like, look, I mean, there was really only so much you can do when you're at Penn State. Or when against Penn State, when Carson Barnhart, he said Chop Robinson was legitimately by him. Before he's off the ball, and like this, he's like the silent count. He's like, there's only so many things you can do. I thought that was a little discouraging, right? Because it's like you can't control the environment, but you need to find a way to somehow be able to still pass the ball, even if you can't hear. You can't just say, oh, well, we're not going to be able to pass today, we're going to run. Yeah. That will get you beat.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to run it 32 straight times or whatever it was at Penn State against a team like Alabama. They'll shut you down and then make life miserable for you after that, because then it'll be clear that Michigan, assuming they do shut it down, that they're having a lead, and then they can pin their ears back and go right after McCarthy, and that's no bueno for Michigan. So yeah, I think they're going to have to create some level of balance early on between the running and passing game. They're going to have to be able to get ahead of the chains, and how they do that is going to be a question. I do wonder how Blake Corum is going to be able to maneuver in these kind of situations, especially if the holes are not very big against Alabama. I mean, his speed, I don't know whether it translates against an Alabama defense. We'll see. I mean, that's where they talk about the SEC speed, and especially reveals itself on the defensive side.
Yeah, and that's not really his forte to begin with, the breakaway speed, that is. But there's no room for error. It's funny how little we've talked about Blake Corum. Yeah. I mean, in a game of this magnitude, 24 touchdowns this year, one more, and nobody will have scored as many touchdowns in the Maize and Blue as he. But it just feels like, given the way this offensive line has been this year and the magnitude, Blake, he just can't do it by himself, right? That's why you're looking elsewhere instead of last year, where it's, oh, well, you have Blake. It's not just until they didn't.
Yeah, right. And they've won multiple ways this year, and they've shown the balance is being able to not be 50-50 necessarily, but to be able to throw it when you need to and run it when you need to. And the question is, can they do that against a team like Alabama and like an SEC defense? And they put them to beat Georgia drill for those very reasons. I mean, they were expecting to play an SEC level defense in the college football playoff. They figured they were going to have to get past one to win a national championship, and here's their shot. And we'll see if they can do it, but it really probably comes down to, like you said, JJ McCarthy.
It does, and we will talk to him more tomorrow at Team Media Day when we keep this coverage rolling. You know where to get it, freep.com and Hail Yes, where you get all of your podcasts. I hope you continue to. I mean, this guy, a man about town. While we're here in Los Angeles, he used to cover Alabama. We've all been talking. Never seen you thriving at this level. And
ridiculous.
I know. And so we're loving it. Having a good time. Stay tuned at freak.com. Thanks for watching.